This video is sponsored by Audible. You can get a free audiobook of The Rise of Kyoshi or its sequel, The Shadow of Kyoshi, through the link in the description. More on that later. So I do know this book came out like a year ago, and I actually got to buy it at Comic-Con last year, and I got to meet the author, FCE, and I got to get it autographed and have a short conversation with him and stuff. It was pretty cool. But right after Comic-Con, my life actually got really busy, so I didn't really get a chance to read it until like 2 months ago. And I must say, this book is actually better than I expected it to be. The book is very well written. The author clearly knows how to write. I won't really be going into any spoilers in this video, but I'll be giving some general plot points. So, the book has a very short part in the beginning about Kyoshi's childhood and then skips forward later to her teenage years. You get to learn about the origins of some things like her fans and her costume. She also kind of develops her own team avatar, and you also get to learn more about Kuruk's life, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, I can't go into that many more details without really spoiling anything, but something this book does really well is expanding on the established world building. Many familiar things from Avatar are appropriately incorporated into this story. One example being the 4 toys that are used to identify the next avatar, you know, things that the Legend of Korra neglected. Another thing I liked, but some people might not like, is that the book doesn't really spoon-feed you any of the established Avatar lore or world building. If someone's never watched Avatar, or they watched it once, like 5 or more years ago, they might actually get kind of confused by some stuff. Now, I actually really like this. I always hate when sequels or prequels or anything new in a franchise has to retread things because someone didn't watch the original thing or whatever. But this is kind of a warning. Definitely be familiar with the Avatar lore and the Avatar world before reading or listening to this book. I definitely would say rewatch the show if you haven't recently, although I'm sure many of you have since its recent return to Netflix. You don't have to be like an expert on everything about Avatar like me, but you do have to be familiar with it. Another interesting thing about this book is I'm pretty sure it's the first novel I've ever read that was based on a cartoon. So in my head, I kept going back and forth imagining everything as either live action or a cartoon. I literally had to stop and think about it. Am I supposed to be imagining them as cartoons or live action? Now, you might think the obvious answer is to imagine everything like a cartoon, but like many books, it's very descriptive of details that are often not portrayed in cartoons. So that's kind of where the conflict came from, but I eventually settled on imagining them in anime form. I mean cartoon form. Another interesting thing about this book is that it's definitely less kid-friendly than either of the shows or any of the comics or anything. I mean, like, the violence is a bit more violent. For example, someone straight up gets impaled on an ice spike by waterbending. Someone else gets their throat cut by a sharp rock from earthbending. And I didn't say who it was, so it's not a spoiler. There's also alcohol consumption, and the sexual references are less subtle than they were in the show. Now, even though I thought the story was overall pretty good, the one big issue I had with this book was that the bending kind of seemed to get overpowered sometimes. I mean, that's at least how it sounded to me by the way it was described. The thing I always loved about bending was that it seemed to have limitations. It made everything more interesting. Now, in both previous shows, there were examples where I thought the bending got too overpowered, but in this book, it seemed to go to another level. Now, I think this might be because of an issue that I first mentioned when this book was first announced. It's kind of hard to describe these elaborate bending battles without using tons and tons of words, and for that reason, I'm out. I'm sorry, I meant to say, and for that reason, many of the battles in this book are pretty short. They are descriptive, but they're kinda short. There's usually just a few exchanges and someone does something pretty powerful to end it. And this is exactly the reason that this is what Netflix should be turning into an animated show instead of making a live-action remake of the original series. I think an animated series based on these books would be pretty cool. Now, even though my most successful video I ever made by far is about the live-action Netflix show, I still think they shouldn't make it. They should stop production right now and turn these books into an animated series. Oh well, they won't do that. But anyway, one other small issue I had with this book was that there was somewhat frequent use of Chinese words that I don't think the average English speaker knows. They weren't so frequent that they'll hinder your understanding of the story, but they do pop up now and again. The two that I can think of off the top of my head were Jian and Dao. A Jian is a Chinese straight sword like Sokka's or Dao's. A Dao is a Chinese curved broadsword like Zuko's. Now, I actually already knew these words because I have a pretty big interest in military history, but I definitely wouldn't expect the average English speaker to know these. Now, like I said, these aren't in the book so frequently that they'll make it hard to understand, but I thought it was just kind of weird that they were just there in an English book unexplained. Now, I said in a previous video that I thought a Game of Thrones style series about the Earth Kingdom would be pretty interesting. And this book definitely contains some aspects of that, which I thought was pretty cool. So overall, even though I had a few problems with some of the bending and stuff, the story was pretty solid, and the book was very well written. I would definitely recommend it to any Avatar fan. I'd even recommend it to casual Avatar fans, but if you're a big enough fan of Avatar that you watch my channel, then I definitely recommend it. It's probably the best Avatar story released since the original show. And you can listen to the whole audiobook right now for free if you click the link in the description. http://www.audibletrial.com/avatarcritic. Or if you're British, http://www.audibletrial.com/avatarcritic. Just make sure you have cookies enabled and ad blocker turned off before you click the link. And sign up for a 1-month free trial of Audible and get 1 free audiobook. Or if you already read The Rise of Kyoshi, you can get its sequel right now on Audible as well, The Shadow of Kyoshi. Personally, I'm listening to it right now on Audible. Now, the great thing about these audiobooks is that you can listen to them while you're doing something else, like if you're driving somewhere, or you're doing chores, or you're working out, or you're practicing bending, whatever. And through the Audible app, you can listen to them on your phone or any other device. Oh yeah, and Audible lets you download the audiobooks so you can listen offline. You know, which is useful if you're going to the spirit world or something, because I don't think they have the best internet connection there. So do it! I genuinely recommend these books, and you can listen to one now for free. Subscribe to my channel for more Avatar-related videos. Thanks everyone for 50,000 subscribers. Now that I have 50,000, Dagon is mine.
50,000. And the gun is yours.
Support me on Patreon. Big thanks to my patrons, Jay Campbell, My Hero Mo, Kyle Alvarez, and Colleen West. Follow me on social media, blah blah blah. Alright, thanks for watching, bye bye.